A young woman full of hope, a decorated soldier, trained to protect, not harm. Their love story was supposed to be the beginning of forever. But behind their smiles was something darker, something dangerous, and when she found the strength to walk away, he made a deadly decision that shocked a nation. What followed was a twisted path of manipulation, grooming, and a 6-year manhunt across America. And at the heart of it all, a betrayal so chilling, it still haunts those who knew her. This is the tragic and disturbing case of Cati Blauvelt, the soldier's wife whose final act of bravery cost her everything. Subscribe to Crime Whispers. Simpsonville, South Carolina, a quiet, close-knit community where everyone knows everyone, and neighbors wave from their porches. It's not the kind of place where nightmares unfold, but in 2016, that illusion would be shattered. Cati Blauvelt was 22, energetic, creative, kind. She loved animals, had a goofy sense of humor, and wore her heart on her sleeve. Her family called her the light in the room. In 2014, she married 28-year-old John Blauvelt, a US Army recruiter stationed locally. To those around them, John was the picture of respect. A clean-cut soldier, a man of honor. Their wedding photos painted a picture of bliss. But as the honeymoon period faded, cracks began to show. Cati confided in close friends that John was possessive. He didn't like her going out. He monitored her phone. And sometimes she hinted that things had gotten physical, but always brushed it off, saying, "He just gets stressed." But there was something else. Something that made even her friends uneasy. A teenager, Hannah Thompson, a 17-year-old girl from town, who had somehow become a fixture in John's life. He spent more and more time with her. Cati was uncomfortable, but John brushed it off, said he was mentoring her, helping her with school. It didn't feel right, and Cati knew it. On October 24, 2016, Cati didn't show up for work. Her co-workers were instantly concerned. She was reliable, punctual, and they hadn't heard from her all day. Calls went straight to voicemail, texts unread. Her mom, Patty, grew increasingly worried. Cati always called, even if she was just running late. This wasn't her. The next day, her family officially reported her missing. That night, just after midnight, police received a disturbing tip. A foul smell was coming from an abandoned house downtown, a building locals had avoided for years, windows boarded up, floors collapsing. Inside the crumbling basement, they made a horrifying discovery. Cati's body was found stuffed into a concrete utility box in the basement. Her body had been folded, wedged in like garbage. She had been stabbed multiple times. The blade was still in her neck, the handle broken off nearby. Blood stained the floor. The air was heavy with decay and silence. Investigators would later say it was the most disturbing scene some had ever worked. To leave someone like that, hidden, discarded, wasn't just murder. It was cruelty. Her mother collapsed when she was told. She was so full of life. She just wanted to be free. Police immediately reached out to John, but he was gone, and not alone. He had fled with 17-year-old Hannah Thompson, the same teenager who had been living with him till Cati moved out. The timeline was damning. Cati disappears, John vanishes. Hannah, underage, missing with him. They were seen traveling across several states, Mississippi, Texas, Oregon, always one step ahead. John used his military survival skills to disappear. Fake names, cash-only motels, burner phones. He was a ghost, and with each passing month, fear grew. Would he ever be caught? As investigators dug deeper, a disturbing pattern emerged. Cati and John had separated months earlier. She'd filed for divorce and domestic violence charges. The latter led to John being suspended from military service. That suspension broke him, and he blamed one person, Cati. He told people she ruined his life, one friend said. He said he'd ruin hers in return. Even more disturbing, John moved Hannah into his home just days after Cati moved out. He was 28. She was 17. She told friends they were in love, but many saw the truth. She was being groomed, controlled, manipulated. What no one expected was how far that control would go. With help from the US Marshals, the manhunt intensified. Tips came in from all over the country. People thought they saw John in Nevada, New Mexico, even Canada. But nothing stuck. Then, 2 years later, a break. Hannah came home, alone. Terrified, malnourished, broke. She told investigators that John had abandoned her in Oregon, that he'd become paranoid, angry, violent. But she also told them this, he admitted it. He said he killed Cati. He said she begged for her life, but he stabbed her anyway. And then, he told her it was for her, a twisted token of love. It was the kind of manipulation that left scars. Hannah was no longer just a runaway. She was a witness. Years passed, the trail went cold. Then in 2022 a tip came from Medford, Oregon. A quiet man living under the name Ben Klein had a familiar tattoo, a skull and crossbones on his forearm. Marshals set up surveillance. One morning, he stepped outside, and they saw it, clear as day, the tattoo. The face, the posture, they moved in. "I'm not John," he claimed. "I'm Ben." But fingerprints told the truth. July 20th, 2022, nearly 6 years after the murder, John Blauvelt was arrested. In 2024, John Blauvelt stood trial. He showed no remorse. Prosecutors presented his handwritten journal. One entry reads simply, "I did it." Hannah took the stand, brave, composed. She spoke about how John twisted her reality, how he made her believe she owed him silence, how he used her as a pawn. The defense tried to poke holes, said there was no DNA evidence. But the broken knife, the journal, Hannah's testimony, it was enough. The jury deliberated for just 5 hours, guilty. Life in prison, without the possibility of parole. Justice, yes, but closure, that's harder to find. Cati's mother still visits her grave every week. She was brave. She tried to escape him. And he took everything. Her room remains untouched. Her artwork still hangs on the walls. Her cat still curls up in her old spot on the couch. Her life was stolen, but her spirit lives on. She wasn't just a victim. She was a daughter, a friend, a young woman who deserved so much more. John Blauvelt was trained to serve, to protect. Instead, he groomed a child, abused a woman, and when that woman said no more, he chose murder. He ran 4 years, changed his name, built a new life, but the truth always catches up. Today, he's behind bars. But for those who loved Cati, the pain is still real, the loss still fresh. What do you think? Should John Blauvelt have received the death penalty? Was Hannah just another victim, or should she have done more? We want to hear from you. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Like this video if you stand with Cati's family. Subscribe and hit the bell, so her story, and others like it, are never forgotten. For Cati, for every woman who never got the chance to escape.